back everyone. At Coffee Table Stories, we bring interesting people with great stories and who can inspire us with their knowledge. We were having one of such conversations with Vikrant last week. Let's take that forward from where we left off. Do you believe meditation and spiritual practices, as it is now said in a lot of, spiritual books or podcasts or, all these courses out there, do you believe they can save us from all the troubles in the life, or they just act as probably as a band-aid for a limited period of time?
So yeah, another controversial one, Rahul. There's some really, what do you say, fanatical lovers of meditation.
Even I am religiously into meditation, but still somewhere I feel this. Does it save me from anything that I feel? The answer is no. Probably for that, for the time being, yes. I feel more energy after it, yes. But can it save me from all the troubles in the long run? Probably I want to hear from the expert himself.
So I'm not an expert, but fortunately I am a meditator too. Do it fairly. I don't want to use the word religiously, but I do it. I don't miss my daily rituals usually, and I'm on the ball for meditating practically every day, except if work doesn't allow for it. And I've also been fortunate enough to get some education directly from career meditators as part of my studies, and also reading about what meditation does to the body, what it does to the mind, what it has the potential to do. Fundamentally, Rahul, there's nothing in the world, even natural or unnatural, that is just positive, right? Which does not have a balancing side that's opposite. People don't want to see it. People refuse to acknowledge it. But it just doesn't exist in nature. There's nothing that's just intrinsically good or intrinsically bad. It's all, it's in the eye of the beholder, literally, to your relevant experience. So meditation, yes, it is a fantastic habit to build what I would call meta-awareness, which means the ability to observe your observation of thoughts, right? Of your own thoughts.
Right.
So it is very useful. It is very useful as a practice. For me personally, it has worked fantastically well. So just a little bit about my own experience with mental health. When I got into therapy, I was suffering from acute anxiety and symptoms of PTSD. So for me, meditation, while initially it was extremely difficult, it did become a way to observe thoughts or to sit with myself. And over a period of time, as I continue to get better, or as I continue to kind of find my own way through, meditation became and is today a familiar place that I don't need to sit down cross-legged on the ground anymore for. It is more by intention, and I could be walking and meditating. I could be taking a breath in the middle of a meeting and switch to kind of a meditative state. So meditation is my beef against all those people who prescribe meditation as a panacea, which is, it is the end all and be all of all your troubles, or it will just fix you, is that is not how meditation works. And unfortunately, you can fall into the trap of getting into what I call is a revolving door, which means you walk from the road, which is noisy and crowded. You're trying to get into a building that is nice and calm, and there is a revolving door in between, and you're at the revolving door, but because you're better than what you were on the road, you think you've arrived. And that's what meditation could be. It can make you, I do feel that meditation has the ability to make you passive to what's going on around you, to make you non-responsive or not responsible, to play your part in the world. So you could have people dying around you, or be dysfunctional around you, and you could be sitting cross-legged and be in a very protective cocoon and think that that's the way you need to be because you need to protect yourself. But the question is that what you're supposed to do? Are you supposed to be out in the world trying to make a difference, or trying to set things right, or trying to do what is, in our world, Rahul, what is karma, right?
Yeah.
Which is action. So
Right.
so I do see that with meditation also is counterproductive to people if you're dealing with trauma, because it can trigger emotions and memories. Um, and at times the prescription also is sit with your thoughts, don't try to escape it, uh, don't try to come out of it because it's scary and all, just stay in it. That's not
Yeah.
healthy for if you are dealing with trauma, because it will trigger the biochemistry of your brain, and you might actually feel more distress, and that happens a whole lot to people. So it is not supposed to be a prescription for a way out, but as a practice, it is a pretty good practice to have in your day or in your week. And it can be achieved a million other ways.
Yeah.
Meditation does not mean just sitting. If you are, say, someone who enjoys writing, and if that kind of allows you to shut the world out and you're just writing, you are in
Yeah.
a meditative space of mind. Music could put you in a meditative space of mind. Nature could put you in a meditative space of mind. So literally find your poison,
Yeah.
and see what works for you best. But yeah, be wary of following prescriptions on meditation or any of these spiritual practices.
Right. Right. Yeah, because because I've been talking about meditation more than often on my podcast. I think on every podcast episode I have talked about meditation, and so this is one of the question which have come from my audience, that so one person pinged me the other day, and she asked me that you talk about meditation, you talk so highly of meditation, uh,
Mhm.
but she said that she just uses meditation to calm her mind,
Mhm.
and probably just feel at ease,
Yeah.
uh, but nothing more than that. And but she asked me, so I think what she wanted to know was probably what is that I am achieving from meditation, that what is more that I am achieving from meditation, that probably she's just using it for calming her mind.
Mhm.
But if I have to talk about my experience, I think I started with, like anyone else, I started with meditation just to calm my mind. I think that's where I think every one of us start with meditation. When we are going through these stressful situations, or probably a whole bunch of thoughts going around, and you want to calm your mind. That's when you you take up meditation, you practice meditation to do that. And I'm no doctor, I'm no expert, but over a period of time that I've observed that, and this is one tangible experience that I can share. So every other day I feel the pain in my lower back,
Mhm.
but through meditation, and there's the point that I reach during that meditative state, that I feel something is getting eased out, somewhere in my body. And
Mhm.
I probably cannot articulate it in so much words, but if just to give it a perspective, I feel that something is getting eased out in my body, probably in my
Mhm.
muscles, or they're getting relaxed. And when I come out of that meditative state, uh, I feel a lot better.
Mhm. Absolutely, Rahul. So let's just switch to the science for a little bit. What
Yeah.
does what does deep breathing, or the stuff that happens in meditation, does to you? So it basically is a shortcut or a more intentional way to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, right? The autonomous things that happen in your body which you don't control, like breathing, your heartbeat, you don't really get to control. It just happens on its own. Digestion, you don't get to control. It just happens on its own. And the biochemistry of your brain and of your gut, serotonin being produced and helping you with a lot of the other good stuff that happens in your body. So it does definitely have its benefits. The body has immense capability to self-heal and self-correct, and meditation can be a fantastic way to activate that mode, right?
Yeah.
And do self-healing, that calmness. So it does have its advantages, no doubt about it. And enough studies have been done on career meditators and Buddhist monks, including some
Yeah.
really cool people like Matthew Ricard, who's actually is a science guy. I think he was a bioscientist who then became he's Dalai Lama's personal translator, French translator. So a lot of studies have proven that it helps. But yeah, no, I do definitely recommend meditation, but I would rather say this: just
Yeah.
try to chase that meditative state of mind than following a particular prescription, and you might come up with your own way of how this works best to you.
Right. All right, Vikrant, as I said that I'll come to this part where I would ask you some of your favorite books and some of the books that you want to, recommend.
Sure, I'm a fairly what Rahul you could call a linear reader. I haven't read fiction in a long, long time, but I think the last book that I remember, which I thoroughly enjoyed, was I think it's Frederick Backman, A Man Called Ove. It's a fairly popular book, so a lot of people might have heard it or
It's a very
seen the
beautiful
movie.
book. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the fiction book that I read last. Most of my reading today is psychology and psychiatry, but I do enjoy reading cultural development, so of social development over the years. So of late, the books that I've enjoyed has been the one big one that just was very vivid in the way it was written is *Sapiens*. Again, it was I think a New York Times bestseller for many months, so
Yeah.
people might
Right.
be aware of it. I do thoroughly enjoy reading nature. And the last book there that I enjoyed, actually, two of them come to mind. One is The Discovery of Nature, which is the story of Alexander Humboldt. And that was quite fascinating that he was pre-Darwin, and the fact that almost every continent has something named after Humboldt. So that was a really cool book. The book by Peter Wohlebben, The Secret Life of Trees, I think it's called, was quite fascinating. And it put me on the path to always be interested in fungus and fungi and mushrooms.
Yeah.
So that was quite fascinating. The other one, and kind of something that we've spoken about today, which might be of use to people who've kind of gone through a traumatic experience or would be interested, or know someone who's would not be interested in going through a traumatic experience, but would be interested in understanding how trauma works in a physiological way, is a book by Bessel, Vander Kolk, I think. But the book is called The Body Keeps Score. And it is beautifully written and has a lot of science in it. So it's not pop psychology for sure. It is about how trauma affects your physiology, which is the brain's biochemistry and more stuff. Similarly, Peter Levine, who's a very senior scientist, clinical psychiatrist in the US, has written a whole lot of stuff about how trauma impacts memory, and that's fascinating on how memory is not fixed and can change over a period of time, and what we understand of memory is very different than, or most people understand of memory is very different than how memory actually operates in the brain. So those are interesting reads. And then off late, there's a Canadian psychiatrist, again, who works a whole lot on trauma. His name is Gabor Mate. You can find him on YouTube. He does a lot of talks. So his work is interesting.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's pretty much my reading. My reading is a lot of just one subject, but the variety in psychological literature is so immense that I think I'm going to probably be reading it for the rest of my life. It's just pick up different modalities under the larger umbrella of psychiatry and just try to educate myself.
Yeah. All right. I will definitely mention all of these books and authors in the description. For the benefit of everyone. I've just started reading one book by Jerry and Ether Hicks. The book's name is Ask and It Is Given. So it has a very, it is based on, largely it is based on psychology, but from a different perspective that we all, I've just read 4 or 5 chapters right until now. Looking forward to complete it.
Mhm.
But it is based on that we all come from a as they call it, source of energy.
Mhm.
And as much as we have a physical form, we also have exist in the non-physical forms. Not just us, but everything. So
Mhm.
how the different aspects work in stimulating those non-physical aspects of everything. uh,
Mhm.
it is until now an interesting read. And to make it more interesting, they have so they say that there's a spiritual guide who is uh, probably guiding them, or probably showing them that aspect of how things work in a non-physical
Mhm.
tangent, or
Mhm.
that realm, to be able to connect the dots between the physical and non-physical. So to give it a perspective, they call that spiritual guide Abraham, and Abraham is guiding them, how to make a connection with the source of energy. So basically the same thing that as we call a superpower, or we call God, or source of energy. Basically, guiding your mind towards positivity,
Mhm.
and to that tangent. So it's a good read.
Yeah. I think I might have heard a couple of their talks, Rahul,
Yeah.
or their seminars back in the day. I
Hmm.
do agree. I think our tendency to always put cause and effect together gets challenged when you kind of read or follow in that direction, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the spiritual literature, while it does talk about cause and effect, it actually at times just takes the cause out of the picture and just makes it effect,
Yeah.
um, which I guess it does work because not everything can be explained scientifically. In fact, even scientists can't explain everything scientifically.
Yeah.
So that middle path is actually good because again, as is another one of my favorite authors, Nassim Taleb, writes, randomness is very much a science, and there's a chaos theory out there
Hmm.
that does say, hey, unexplainable stuff will always happen. Not everything is cause and effect at times, but we will always try as humans. We will always try to bring cause and effect together, but it doesn't always work. At times, things cannot be explained, and that's how you go about it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. The timing of things, especially a lot of times, the timing of things can't be explained. Um,
Yeah.
and that's when to make sense, as we are all making machines, spirituality comes to your rescue.
Yeah. Right. All right. Uh, so now coming to the last section, Vikrant, we have three questions from the audience. So basically, before our talk, I opened this for the audience if they want to ask any questions to you. So
Mhm.
from there, I have three questions from them. So let me read out the first one. Okay, the first one says, how to control the habit of an overthinking mind.
uh, so the mind is supposed to think. That's the way it is built. That's the machinery we're all gifted with. Uh, there is because yeah, how to bring more control over thinking. A lot of stuff that we've already spoken about in the last hour, Rahul, kind of supports that. Build perspective, build meta awareness, and you'll be able to see where it's your mind is going. Um, I will repeat, the mind is rather fragile, and so controlling it takes work. But the mind is supposed to think.
Yeah.
There is a period of rest that you give the mind where it's not thinking, but it's kind of defragmenting, which is what happens in sleep and
Hmm.
associative, restorative, or restive phases. But if you are up and about and you are conscious and you don't have challenges with your mind is always going to be thinking. If you are overthinking, or if you if you think you are thinking too much about the bad stuff in your life, then either shift your focus through activities. And I think, Rahul, you and I have spoken about this in the past, right?
Yeah.
Building a gratitude journal or a journal of positivity or positive things in your life is a good practice to shift the mind and build more perspective or bring more light or more of a spotlight onto the good things in your life, and you will see that shift. Gratitude journal is scientifically proven. There are enough studies, enough controlled studies that have happened on how that helps and even changes the biochemistry of your brain. But yeah, the mind is supposed to think. Is it overthinking or underthinking? That's very relative to the individual.
Yeah.
What you're thinking, the quality of your thoughts is in your control. But it is not like, you can wake up in the morning and say, I was thinking negative thoughts last night. Today, I'm only going to think positive, and it's going to work like that.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. It takes a lot more work.
And agree totally. And I can go back to what you said in the previous question, that probably the negative thoughts work as a velcro, and the positive side of it, it's more of a teflon, that it slips easily, but the negative aspect of thoughts, they stick longer, and probably that gets the loop going, and probably
Yep.
that's where we need to interject and probably divert that chain of thought, or
And
break that chain of thought. Yeah.
and building that, Rahul, is you could call it a superpower, but you can
And
build it. It's something that you cultivate of the ability to know or observe the mind and then say, hey, the mind is just thinking negative. Can I make it? But
Yeah.
can I make it think of the positive? But again, it's not as easy as it sounds. And the fact is that we can very easily go into the trap of saying every time I'm confronted with negative thoughts, I'm going to meditate, or every time I'm confronted with
Yeah.
negative thoughts, I'm just going to switch to thinking about the positive thoughts. That escapism could actually very, very well come in. And that doesn't really work very well either. So it has to be more of a consistent everyday approach where it's like you can't really go to the gym on day one and pick up 40-pound weights. You probably have to start with 5.
Yeah.
So you can definitely build up to the time where you're not a slave to your thoughts, or you're not completely absorbed by your thoughts, but you're able to still function very well despite how the environment operates around you. And that's called emotional resilience, is where you're able to still be a fully functioning adult irrespective of what's happening around you.
Agreed. And I think the first step is in that moment of overthinking, being aware of the fact that I'm overthinking.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that will initiate any reaction or action from your side.
Yeah. And that's where what we were talking about earlier, right? There's a difference. It's not a job done if you can catch yourself overthinking.
Yeah.
The work will be, how do you come out of that? And that usually work is a build up. It's like building strength. It's literally like building a muscle. And that takes its time. It takes consistency. It takes the very simple word, but a very powerful word. It takes sincerity and being responsible for yourself. Yeah.
True. All right. The second question is how to let go of the attachment. The person said, I mean, as humans, we tend to get attached too easily with people. However, detachment takes forever.
So I'm glad the question actually reads as humans, because yes, it's a very human thing to do.
Exactly.
Getting attached is a very human thing to do. Again, this is, I think, relevant to the individual. There is enough science out there on attachment theory. You can actually go online and take a test to figure out what is your attachment style. There are basically 3 predominant styles. And you should, I think it will be good awareness for you if your attachments are something that you can look back on saying, hey, do I have healthy attachments or unhealthy attachments, or do my attachments end up usually in giving me some grief, or do I tend to attract in my life the kind of people which I regret later on? So yeah, understand what your attachment style is. That's what I would say from a science point of view, is you should know what your attachment style is, and that will give you enough awareness when you get into these relationships. But you are a social animal fundamentally. human beings are bred for society. So, and this is again a controversial statement, but contrary to some of the spiritual stuff out there, which says you can detach yourself from everything in the world, I don't think that's humanly possible. Because you will, how do you experience love, companionship without getting attached?
Yeah.
Unless you are a pretty well-established narcissist who's just in love with himself or herself, and you don't really need anyone else to love. But yeah, it is. I think it's a very human thing to be attached, and yeah, I would not recommend anyone trying to build or cultivate detachment. Otherwise, you're escaping a whole lot of the super cool emotions in life, which is deep friendships, which is deep love and associated things. Yeah.
True. I think if you can be aware of your own what if I would have to call it as your own pattern of attachments, probably that's the half work done there, because then you know that probably where things are not going right for you, and you can have strategy. Strategy probably is more of a very professional corporate world, but at least you can have a thought around it, and you can find a resolution. Yeah.
Yeah, and attachment style, Rahul, we spoke about this a little bit earlier again. Attachment styles are part of your conditioning. Attachment styles get developed very early in our lives. So you basically, as a kid, have developed an attachment style depending on upbringing, your environment, the culture or the area that you were in, and that basically keeps manifesting itself in a relationship. So it's one of those things that you could take responsibility of and say, hey, this is how I attach myself to people, and this is what gives me grief or doesn't give you grief. It's a good thing to know, and you will attach yourself in a pretty similar way to some of the more important things in life, which might not be people. Like, what's your relationship with money? Relationship with failures and success. So I think it's a good thing to know about yourself, and yeah, it's not very difficult to figure out your attachment style.
Yeah. All right, and go ahead, Vikrant. Were you saying something?
No, I just wanted to say that if you kind of go and take the test, or if you study yourself and you figure out, hey, I probably have an insecure attachment style, which used to be my style as well. Or habit, then it takes work. So, so nothing gets done on its own. Taking the test is not even half the job done. It's basically probably the starting line of a long relay race, which you're running with other people.
Agreed. And I think in both of the question, I realized one of the aspect is that now with the age of social media and the age of categorizing anything and everything, I have myself seen a lot of posts that overthinking is a trait of this sun sign. This sun sign is over emotional. They get attached very easily, and sometimes as human beings, because obviously for the basic need of validation, we find solace in that. Okay, yeah, I'm a Capricorn. Capricorns are bound to have this trait, or I'm a Cancerian. I'm bound to have this trait of overthinking and things like that. So probably that's also something to ponder upon, that to detach from these validations as well. While we detach from the negative patterns.
Yep. Absolutely, Rahul. Yes, there is so much bad advice, or just in general, so much advice out there that is extremely prescriptive in nature because it's one person's opinion, and you should have a disclaimer in this podcast as well that this is just one person's opinion and one person's experience. But at the end of the day, it is fairly simply put: get your shit together. You have one life, don't fuck it up. Right. so it's just that. That's the beginning and the end of it.
Yeah. And the last question is somewhat related to the first one of overthinking. The last question says how to stop your mind from replaying these bad memories over and over again. Yeah. So again overthinking and probably dwelling on those patterns. Yeah.
So, you know, memory is a fairly tricky thing. You can so memory, if you were to look at it as etchings on, say, a piece of wood, Rahul, you can keep revisiting it, and the etching gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Um, you know, and then that's what how memory operates, and bad memory unfortunately operates like that, and that's the unfortunately the curse of trauma is that you can ruminate in bad memories and hallucinate and catastrophize and do all those things just in your sleep or just sitting in one place and do it at a pace that is faster than the supersonic jets. Um, Learn to process it, build emotional resilience. And again, these things are easier said than done. But if it is enough trouble and if you're sincere about of dealing with your ruminative mind, then there is only one way to do it: is process it, seek therapy, seek counseling, find out where old world wisdom is. There is not very often that you will have an experience which is totally unique to you. And in today's day and age, where it's easy to go online and just find a support group, it's easy to go online and just find a therapist, it's easy to go online and just find a coach. Just don't shy away from dealing with it. Memories, especially bad ones, do create what is clinically called trauma. And trauma is associated with a whole lot of triggers. And my experience, because I had some form of PTSD, I can still get triggered if I feel that someone's invalidating my feelings, and it's such an autonomous response, and it comes quicker than I can catch it. So it's not something that's easy to shake it off. So yeah, rather than staying invested and living with it, deal with it. And dealing with it is not sitting with it and thinking about it. Dealing with it is actually getting help to work through it. Yeah. Bad things happen; they will happen. Worse things have happened to people more often than not than what's happened to you. And yeah, it's good to just not try to shake it off, or not try to hate it, or not try to disown it, because that's not going to work. If it's part of you, it's part of you. It's not going anywhere. But you can deal with it in a lot of healthy ways.
Right. Thank you, Vikrant, for that. And so, though we don't have any other questions, but if I may have a liberty of going beyond the science, and when I say going beyond the science, I mean that because there are still some things that are not yet scientifically proven. But in my last podcast, I'm having this discussion with my friend that is consciousness ever existent? So basically, when I'm born with the consciousness, or I collect this consciousness with my experiences of this life. My experiences, as they add up. Is that what makes my consciousness, or if we believe in a multi life theory, then I carry my consciousness from one life to another. So probably I know it is not everything in this question makes a scientific sense, but I would love to know your quick views on this.
It is a very difficult question, and it's something that I'm sure if this wasn't the end of the episode, Rahul, I would probably struggle with talking too much about. But I really don't have a qualified opinion on afterlife or any of that stuff. Neither it is my something that I lean on in terms of figuring out things. I do believe that you are a sum total of everything around you, and that includes the physical and non-physical things. I do fundamentally understand. I think that there is a form of energy, which is just now common science. Also, is that and that doesn't really escape in what we kind of categorize as the universe. And there is enough stuff that is just totally non-explainable in my life as well, in my practices as well. I have had experiences which which I could not explain. I didn't find the science to explain it. In fact, the teachers who taught me energy work and all that couldn't explain it either to me, what was happening. So there's a whole lot that's not explainable and will probably stay like that. And I think it's good it stays like that. But yeah, you are a sum total of who you are, of what you've, right from what you eat to what you think, to what you expose yourself to where you come from. My only add to that is you're also responsible to carry the burden of individual responsibility. And that I feel is probably something that we don't talk about enough. We don't talk about enough about abdication of responsibility and how often it happens in every aspect of our life. And I didn't know really what absolute individual responsibility means till I think I was left to my own devices after I came here, where you don't have friends, family, or anyone around you physically to kind of shoulder anything that you need to do in life to either become successful, to thrive, to stay healthy, and all that stuff. So yes, I think that's the individual responsibility, and yeah, just know that this is very fragile. Life is very fragile. Coronavirus has taught us that. Our brains are incredibly fragile. So yeah, if you had a thick glass pane and a very thin crystal window pane, then you probably need to take more care of the fragile crystal window pane than you need to do of the thick one. Right. So we too often get in the trap of thinking that we are very strong-bodied, strong-minded people, but it's probably better to know that there is a whole lot of fragility, and something like this virus has taught us that you could be extremely well protected in your house and behind closed walls, but you might still be susceptible to something that's invisible.
True. Well, thank you so much, Vikrant, for this wonderful discussion. I don't know. We will get to know the audience reactions to it later, but for me personally, it is very enriching and something that adds truly value to that. Thank you so much again, Vikrant.
No, absolutely. No, same here. Thank you for doing what you're doing. It is always a pleasure connecting with you, and I hope people who are listening in don't get upset with you.
They can filter out what they don't want to hear.
Yes. Yeah. Or you can edit out the magic mushroom stuff. That's the only real controversial part.
That's the TRP making machine, Vikrant.
Yes. Well, hopefully one day when it's all legal and good and all healthy, we can probably do one together.
Sure, definitely, I would love to.